The market is shifting. It's Sunday, and you know what it's time for? We got to get a little real estate update. First, I want to tell you something. If you happen to live in the Phoenix area, I was just invited and just sent plane tickets to go see the company, the modular home company that I've been talking about, which is Zenny Homes. I'm super excited. Of course, I'm going to film the whole entire thing. I'm going to go through their factory. I'm going to witness them actually putting their houses together. Super excited about it. Can't wait to film this video and have it shared to you. Probably won't come out, this week, of course, possibly the following week if I can get it edited in enough time, because I want to make sure I cover everything. Because I'm going to ask him the hard hitting questions, because we've been bamboozled by some companies in the past, and I'm not putting up with it anymore. So I'm gonna be asking the hard hitting questions so you guys can see if that'd be a company you'd be interested in. So I will be there. I'll be leaving on early Wednesday morning, and I'll be filming that whole entire thing. So another thing is I want to thank my husband for giving me this camera for the trip. So thank you, husband. I wanted to put that out there to the universe. So husband and kids. Yep. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Ezra. Thank you. I see a lot of new faces in here today, and I'm really excited about it. So we're going to be talking about the way that the housing market is shifting for a certain generation. As you know, that we talk about baby boomers a lot and how they're choosing to age in place. And then millennials have found a different way. They're later getting into the housing market in comparison to a Gen X, who most people forget about. People always forget about Generation X, but we most of us actually don't own as much real estate, by the way, as our baby boomer parents did at the same stage. So interesting, huh? Only 46 in Northern Virginia today. Wow. Proud Liberal 24 says there's only 46 here. It is hot. It's like in the 70s here. It starts off cold and then it gets hot, and it makes me miserable. Nice to see our moderators here as well. So if you guys get out of hand, the moderators, they have the ban hammer. So don't get crazy out there. So anyways, let's go ahead and jump into the first article that's talking about the way that the real estate market is shifting in comparison with millennials. And if you're a millennial out there, you let me know if this article is hitting it on the nose or if this is just a bunch of fluff and utter. And it does come from the National Association of Realtors, so I trust their information more than most of these articles. It says for a number of millennials, the generations between 1981 and 1996, the time to buy a home was never quite right. Waiting for their cheaper time in 2022, millennials bought up. The average age of a first-time home buyer is now 36 years old. That went from 33 to 36. And when I was buying homes, it was 26. So that's like a 10 years difference. It's all doom and gloom when it comes to millennials taking over the housing market. According to the National Association of Realtors, the increase of homeownership among millennials with an increase of homeownership among minorities over the last 5 years, according to NAR. Released on February 14th, 1.5 million Black households are expected to turn the median home buying age at the same time as 777,000 Asian households and 2.2 million Hispanic households. Millennial generation has more racially ethnically diverse. Well, first-time home buyers are facing challenges entering into home ownership. As young buyers are entering into the household buying, there will be a rise in minority ownership. In 2022, NAR reported that there were 10.5 million homeowners in the 10 years before, with all ethnic groups increasing home ownership rates, Asian Americans increasing their home ownership. So it looks like that we have a more diverse group going into home ownership. The thing that I keep seeing, though, when it comes to and maybe it's just from what I see, is that millennials are having the toughest time finding anything affordable. And that's why the age of the first-time home buyer has risen so significantly. From the time I bought a house, my very first house, it's been 20 years. So in 20 years, the average age of first-time home buyer is raised 10 years. And if we continue to see home prices go up, we're going to see that age of that first time home buyer go up as well. That's what I think. Like the home prices are still so unaffordable for most Americans. Most people can't afford with their median income the median price home in their area, unless you live like in a middle area of America. Most people can't afford it. Hi, Sarah. Sarah's saying hi. She has the best screen name. Sarah's my actual name is her screen name. So, like, if you're a millennial, let me know in the comments section because I'm really interested to hear like your perspective of your home buying situation. Like, give me your story and we can share it here on the live stream because glorifying a few people being able to buy a house right now is kind of like, to me, seems kind of silly when most of Americans can't afford it. I want out of Michigan so bad, but finances and health are turning into a nightmare. Oh, Jay, no more numbers. I didn't know if you knew this or not. We were talking about this on a previous stream. There is more people interested in moving into Michigan. Like some of the most popular areas around Michigan, all of a sudden are getting a big boom of people interested in moving there, which surprised me, shocked me. I was really surprised. And another area that blew my mind was Buffalo, New York. Like more and more people are choosing to move to Buffalo, New York. And everybody I've known my whole entire life that has ever lived in Buffalo, New York, always complains about the snow and how cold it is there year round. And if you're not like when you're young, if you're not like into the bar scene, it's really not easy to meet people. That's just what I heard. I mean, I have no idea. So I was like, for destinations of younger people, I would have thought they would pick more warmer climates like, Austin and in, Florida. But because of the insurance thing, and I guess jobs are better there. I have no idea. Lumber says, Kristina, it's not your fault. We're all on pensions. Millennials and Gen X had the money to buy everything. Oh, I don't know what Gen X you're talking to, because most Gen X's I have ever talked to said their pensions ended with their companies years ago. Eddie had a pension up until just a couple of years ago, and they stopped the pension plan. They're like, oh, well, we're going to replace it with this 401k and it's going to work so much better for you, which we all know that is not the case. Many people would have depended on those pensions. A lot of companies that are going under. One of them is a chemical plant around here. I'm not going to say any more than that, but all those people that have been with that company for years and years and years now have lost their pension. They don't get it. You stay with a company for 30 years, it closes down, you don't get a pension. Can you imagine if you had depended on that? You stay with that company because you wanted to hold on to that pension? Man. Like, and then they want to raise the retirement rate, Us Gen Xers, we're not going to be retired until we're 75 if they keep going like this, I don't know. Oh, Gen X here. Finally bought mine when I was at 27. Eddie and I bought our first home. I think I was 28 when we bought our first home. Maybe I was 27. It was just right before I was 27, but I was just barely, because we had just bought the house. So might as well say I was 28. Hey, SB, it's nice to see you. If you have any questions during the stream, we will cover as many as you'd like to answer about the real estate market. I will answer them the best I can. We were supposed to have a guest this week. They're going to be moving to next week. We're going to be talking next week about mortgage rates, and we're going to be having Kyle Seagraves from Win the House You Love here to talk about anything relating to home loans. So I can answer very little about home loans. I leave that to the experts about home loans. Want to know about anything about real estate, what's going on right now, anything with modular homes, manufactured homes, even tiny homes, I will gladly answer those. So Crowd Libel says, question, I had to sell my rental and invest $534,000 after tax, or keep it to make 5% on rent. It's about $26,300 a year. I am the kind of person that I don't know what your age is. If you have an income producing property and you've gone over the financials, especially with insurance and taxes right now, and it's still making you a profit, I always say hold on to your real estate as long as you can until you have to sell it. That's just me. Unless you plan on selling it and then reinvesting it into another piece of property. That is entirely up to you and what your financials look like. I even tell people that live in manufactured homes or considering manufactured homes, they're like, I really don't want to do that. I'm like, but it gets your foot in the door of real estate and it allows you not to be in the rental rat race. So that way, later on down the road, you could either A, sell it or B, rent it out. And I always encourage them to, like, if you can, try to hold on to it, keep it. So that way you can have some income producing property. It's great for a tax credit. It helps you understand running a very small business. Go ahead and like keep your properties. That's what I always say. That's my 2 cents. Bentley says, I was in North Florida a week ago for a possible homesteading for my living and farming. Investors are buying other land near me. Do you suppose investors are going to do with what do you suppose investors are going to do that land? Oh, that's a loaded question. So you have to find out what the land use is. So every piece of property has certain usage that you can use for it. Like if you buy farmland, you can't just all of a sudden put industry there. It has to meet the specifications. Now, are they buying the land to have it rezoned? I mean, are they buying the land to? And I would want to know who the investors were. But more and more people are buying land just to hold on to it to see if somebody will offer them a big chunk of change for it later on. Some of the biggest names and millionaires and billionaires are buying up a lot of land throughout the country. Doesn't matter. Like, everybody knows Bill Gates owns a ton of land, but even like that woman, I think her name is Ray Drummond from, she's the pioneer woman. That's it. She owns a ton of like Oklahoma, like her and her family and her husband, they own, I think they own the most property in Oklahoma. And the Kellogg's family owns a ton. So yeah, it's endless what they're going to possibly do with it. They could just be holding on to it. Pension, heading to the dictionary. Someone wants to know what a pension is. Back in my day, my daddy had a pension. My dad still has that pension, man. He retired, I think, at 55. He retired at 55. Got to travel the world and live on his pension. Of course, he had other investments, but he had that pension, man. They gave it to him early, make him retire early. Yep. I'm a late millennial and I've never been offered a pension. Yeah. That's it's something I would love to have had. And it really did supplement people's incomes when they're retired. They knew they had a guaranteed amount that was coming to them. And then the pension plans were even better because of the fact that if you had a surviving spouse and you were the one that worked and the surviving spouse, like, what are they going to do? A lot of pension plans worked where the surviving spouse would get half the income after you passed away. So they were even taking care of after the fact of you dying. Doesn't that just sound like so nice? No company's going to offer that anymore unless you're like way at the top. And if you're way up the top, you're making buku money. You don't even need a pension. Oh, now he needs to look up the word retire. He wants to know what that word means. That is so funny. I work for VA and customer service. I will get a pension, I believe it or not, 8 years from now. Well, that's actually really nice. I know they're out there. They exist, but they're not nearly as commonplace as they used to be. Yeah. Yeah, my dad is 94, still living off the Chrysler auto pension. And I think a lot of the auto workers still have pension plans. I think they like the top manufacturers of cars, I think they still have them. My former company is not offering pensions anymore. Sad, truly sad. They kind of try to sell it to us like this, they're like, well, of course, we're getting rid of the pension, but we're offering you this 401k and you can diversify it any way you want to. It's so much better. No, it's not. Most people don't understand how to invest in the stock market, picking out the right stocks and, like they don't know what they're doing with those. Come on, 55 should be the retirement age, never changed. To ask someone to work to be on 55 is insulting. I won't argue with you on that. I mean, I don't I enjoy my job. I enjoy my job, but I can when I see somebody at like Walmart or see somebody at any of these stores that are bagging up groceries and they're like 72 years old. And don't give me well, they want to work somewhere because they're bored. A lot of them are working there because they can't afford their medications anymore. I mean, we live in a very unaffordable society, and some of these people have made very good plans for retirement with not the expectation of their medicines costing them, $200 a month just to fill them. And they need that to survive. It's a messed up system. So Kathleen Curtis says she has a question. I'm trying to sell in Eastern Tennessee. Will the market sales be improving soon? Kathleen, I need to understand your market a little bit. Is it that more houses are sitting on the market longer? Is it that home prices are dropping, or is it that this like what's the story behind what's going on in Eastern Tennessee with home prices? Because in most areas, in mine included, we have a stagnant market. It isn't really moving one way or the other. The home prices aren't really dropping, and nobody's really buying. It's just sitting there. So even there's a few people that have like dropped their price, but it wasn't even that significant to get it to get sold. When you see interest rates, I don't know if you guys have seen the interest rates, by the way. They're back over 7 again. And that's not going to get a market moving. If the real estate market interest rates do not drop by spring, I can see a very stagnant spring like we saw last year, where not much it was moving. But as soon as the interest rates get, in the sixes, then the people start calling again. And, that concerns me. That concerns me. Not for anything else, is that it doesn't allow for, any real estate to move in a way that will help either side. Sellers can't get their houses sold, and buyers are still not getting a good price on their houses. So Michigan has many lakes and lots of nature. Mid Michigan has the UP. What's the UP? Upper Peninsula? Is that what that means? I don't know. UP. My brother is even looking at Michigan. My brother is close to retirement. He isn't sure if he's going to retire. He was thinking about moving to out of the country. He has a place in Hawaii too. Lucky him, right? But he was like, I'm going to stop and before I retire, I'm going to work from home in Michigan. So he's going to go there. I don't know. Even my husband and I had looked at it. Gen X here and moved out of Cali and bought my first house at 30. Yeah, and it just seemed like a lot of my friends. This is when social media first came out, and I was seeing a lot of my friends get houses and stuff, and I felt like I was so behind. I felt like I was an older person getting a house at 28. Doesn't that sound funny now? I felt old getting my first house at 28. Yeah. Yeah. There is no pensions in most companies. Yep. Burn It Up says, wait, with minimum wage being raised in California, the potential for other states adopting, how will this affect the housing market going forward? So the likelihood in southern states raising their minimum wage, let's just say it's, a blanket, the minimum wage, it goes up a blanket across the United States. It's not going to affect the housing market so much because of the fact that everything's so expensive already. We're seeing still really record high rental rates. We're seeing a lot more people deciding to stay home a lot longer than they used to because it's just so unaffordable. So if they were to get, let's just say, a couple more dollars or even $1 more an hour, that's just going to allow them to be able to afford to eat more. Like there's people right now that are basically living their life on credit cards because they can't afford the increase in food prices. So my biggest struggle through this for my channel is before the pandemic was explaining how unaffordable housing was. During the pandemic, everybody kept saying, well, this is just a blip, it's going to crash. And here we are on the other side of what the pandemic has done. And we have home prices that in some areas went up 50%, even more. And raising the minimum wage is just going to allow these people to, be able to put food on their table in most cases. So I don't think that's
Super chat. Thank you.
thank you, Charles. I don't think it's going to affect housing too much. Charles G said, get rid of Medicare, Medicaid, welfare, and everyone under 40, no retirement. National debt solved. Apparently, Gates is putting his farmland in a 301c so he doesn't have to pay taxes on it. Man, the rich just know how to keep the money, don't they? So, I mean, all we could do is complain about it, but they're like, what is it? What can we do to stop it? If we go back to that comment of the woman who's buying a piece of farmland for herself, how is that going to affect her in the future? What if these companies down the line decide to put a bunch of industry there because they have enough money, deep pockets to rezone it at any point? This is like, this happens all the time. They could decide to go to her, let's just say 30, 40 years from now, and say, hey, we're going to go ahead and do eminent domain on your property. And she's like, there's nothing wrong with my property. You're not going to eminent domain it. And the state will allow for that to happen. They'll give her a check, and then she loses something she's lived in for 40 years. That's possible. Anything is possible. They can basically force you to sell even though you had no desire to, because they'll blight the property, even though that's not what it's supposed to be used for, but they do it all the time. Yep. Gone Rogue says, I've been fighter for 10 years now. They took away our pension a while back, and I'm sure, and I want to get everybody's opinion on this. I think it should be agreed upon that anybody that's that's a firefighter, a school teacher, a police officer, anybody that has those type of careers should be given a better mortgage plan to stay in that specific area, whether they want to give them more like a down payment assistance, or they want to give them like some kind of credit towards purchasing a house in the direct area that they happen to work. And you can like even make it so that they have to stay in the house for 10 years or they have to pay the money back or something like that. But that would encourage more people to be a part of the community, to help serve that community. If you offered those kinds of things, it gives them an incentive to stay there. Because I know lots of school teachers, especially in California where it's so expensive, they can't live where they teach. So they have to either drive 4 hours and then rent a room from somebody in the area, or they just rent that room from somebody. They live in basically somebody's garage that's been converted just to be able to work there. And I don't think that's right. I mean, they're doing a service for the community. Yes, they're getting paid, but not enough to even live there. So give them something back to incentivize them. That's how you keep and retain really good quality people in an area, Just my 2 cents. You let me know what you think. Jen said starter homes are 250 to 300 in Florida. It's out of control here. I mean, I looked at my old house, Jen. I'm not even joking. I looked at my old house, which when I bought it back in my day it was 135,000. We sold that house for $230. We sold it for $230. And it wasn't worth it then. When we sold that house for $230, I looked at my husband. I'm like, there's no way I would buy this house for $230. It was cute, 1,500 square feet block, but we had redone everything in it, including the roof. They got themselves a good house, but was it worth it back then in 2008 for 230? No. Today, that house is over 400,000. That house is not worth, in my opinion, over 400,000. It's wild. Yeah, Kristina is live now. I am live. Yep, I am. Get my hair done tomorrow. Not that you care, but I wanted to share that. Yeah, here it is. 400,000. Boom. Well, something similar to it. It isn't the exact house. Eddie, if you want me to know if you want to know the exact address, I could tell you. You want me to tell you the exact address, Eddie? But yeah, that was in our old neighborhood. 400,000 for that house. 1,572 square feet. I bet you it's probably the identical floor pattern that we had. $400,000 for that house. And it's not even like it's close to Orlando. It's not even in Orlando. It's like you got to drive a distance. You got to go got to go on the interstate to get to Orlando. We used to have fun out there though. There was this club out there called The Edge. Me and Eddie had a good time there. Island Night says, unbelievable sprawl of new family subdivisions are being built in Phoenix areas. But you know what? You know what's crazy about Phoenix though? They have like the highest rate of institutional investors that are buying brand new subdivisions to rent them out. The other one is Atlanta. And not in Phoenix and in Las Vegas, they're building those houses just to rent them out. They'll never be sold because some of the neighborhoods are specifically what they call build to rent neighborhoods, and they're all Wall Street owned, every single one of them. Crazy, right? So the thing that people need to understand, and if you ever have a chance to vote on this in your community, what happens is this. You're thinking, well, what does it matter? All of those houses in the area are going to be build to rent. That doesn't affect me, but it will affect all the rent prices in your area. So let's just say the financial institution gets in a pickle and they need to get people in those houses right away. They can just tank rent rates in their specific neighborhood, and then all the other small investors are affected by that because no one's gonna rent for them now, and vice versa. Like they can make the rent rates so incredibly high in their neighborhood, and the small investors are like, oh, I can make more money. So then they start increasing how much rent is in the area. They end up dictating and controlling the market because it's not a fair market because they own the most houses that are for rent in the area. Ugh, I'm not a big fan of corporate investors. And I'm not talking about the little mom and pop investor. I'm talking about the people that own numerous rental properties in the area, numerous. Nally Riviera says, we are looking to sell our home because our pensions are not enough to pay for additional bills that come up with owning a home. When we rented, it was much better for us, and some people are deciding to do that. Especially with the cost of insurance recently. I did a video on it. I can't believe how much insurance has gone up. It's a highway robbery. They doubled our insurance. And if you're in that situation, I suggest you definitely shop around for for insurance rates. But yeah, it's bad. And a lot of people are trying to make the decision, do they want to move? But a lot of baby boomers are deciding to age in place because to go live in a home where retirees live is actually much more expensive than it is to stay where they're at. And at least where they're at, they can see their kids and grandkids and they can budget it a little bit better. But the thought of like selling their house and moving to Florida has become out of reach because of the fact of how prices have fluctuated so incredibly high there. It's just not even on their radar anymore. So my wife and I love your channel. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. We have some land on a lake and wanted to put a double wide on it. We decided on a modular would be better because of your suggestions. Just wanted to say thanks. Yes. So if anybody doesn't know, a manufactured home or a mobile home is one of those homes that's like kind of like a straight across cylinder, and it comes in one or two pieces. They connect it together. Within a few days, you have a house. When you have a modular house, it is a typical built house, except for each rooms are put together much like Legos, and it takes them several weeks to put it together, but not nearly as long as a traditional built house. When you have a modular house, it appraises and finances just like any new construction you would buy. You get a typical 30-year mortgage on it without an issue. When you have a manufactured house, the terms of that manufactured home loan is going to be completely different than it would be on a traditional home. You would typically have higher interest rates on those because of the fact that lenders look at them as more of a risk type of housing. So the interest rate is much higher on them. If you're planning on putting it in a park, it's even higher than that because they call that a chattel loan. It's not even the traditional 30-year mortgage. Most of them are like 22-year mortgage or 21-year mortgage. And if you try to sell it in the future and that person is trying to get a mortgage, if the manufactured home is not on a piece of land that is rented, if it's just a rented piece of dirt, they have a harder time getting that same kind of chattel loan because they don't want to cover it because that now the house is over 10 years old. So you did the right thing. You did the right thing getting a modular. I love modular houses. I always tell my husband, if we're going to build again, we're doing modular. There's no doubt about it. If we can get the right modular home company, we're doing it. SB says, what's a 301c? Can we get one too? Honestly, I don't know. That's not something, I'm not an accountant, so I wouldn't know. Oh, Eddie with the facts here. A 501c is a portion of the U.S. Internal Revenue Code in a specific tax category for nonprofit organizations. Organizations that meet the 501c requirements are exempt for federal tax income. The IRS recognized 30 types of nonprofit organizations, but only that qualify for the 501c status can say donations made to them are tax deductible. So, 501c's. So like all your churches are 501c's. I don't know how. It's pretty difficult too to be considered a nonprofit. I know that whole, because I was working with a tiny home group here and they were a nonprofit 501c, but to get that status took years. So yeah, I never heard of 301c, but I'm not a tax person, so I wasn't even going to try to pretend that to say one way or the other. I never had heard of it. It could have been a thing. Maybe we should make it up. When I sold my house in 2022, I refused to sell to sellers. I wrote them a scathing letter telling them they had ruined the housing market and it would not be contributing to the problem. That's amazing, Cassandra. And I know I love their sentiment, but I do understand why some people during the height of the market decided to sell to them. Like if somebody was to come in and you had priced your house, let's just say 400,000. And this is a question for everybody in the chat. Your house is listed for 400,000. You get an offer from somebody giving you full price. They don't want any inspections. They're going to put down, 20%. They're just a regular couple coming in to buy your house. Then the next offer you get in at the exact same time comes from an investor, and they're going to offer you $450,000 cash. They don't want you to fix a thing in the house. They have no mortgage to they're going to do everything. They're going to close in 10 days and they just want your house. I mean, who can turn away $50,000? I mean, not many people can do that. And especially like if you're in a tight budget type of situation, and you need this money because you're trying to, save your rear end. A lot of people can't afford to not take the money. They just can't afford to walk away from $50,000 extra on top of your house. But that's what caused a lot of the nightmare pricing that you saw during the pandemic, is because a lot of investors were offering money, stupid money for houses, cash. People were taking it, and then that made home prices go up and up and up and up. And how can you compete against that? Like if you're a home buyer, how can you compete against an investor? That's why I always liked it when it came to like HUD foreclosures. And to this day, they've always done it, and they'll continue to do it, is that whenever there is a foreclosure on HUD, they don't allow for investors to make offers on it until that listing has been there for at least 14 days. And then after that, let's just say the 14 days are up, they'll say if they got an offer in from an investor and then got an offer in from someone that was wanting to move into that house, they would tell the investor, hold on a minute, we're going to work with them first. And they would negotiate with the people that were planning on moving into it before they would work with the people that are wanting to buy it, like the investors. So they always look at owner occupant offers first before they'll look at an investor. I wish all foreclosures worked that way. Most of them don't. So And he doesn't remember the old address. I don't know. I don't know what made me think of it. Honestly, I've had to look it up several times, but for some reason it stuck in my head. Peter has a question and says, what are your thoughts on unintended consequences? The 30-year fixed rate mortgage combined with low down payments was meant to help, but it led to home prices to going to the moon. I've heard that argument over the years, and back back in the, I think it's the same thing with cars. Like when I was young, growing up, all it does is make home prices go up. It's the same thing that it's done to cars. They just add more years. And that's why I tell you, and I've said this several times, have been kicking around the idea of adding a 40-year or 50-year mortgage so that it would make it more affordable for some people to get into their first house. You do that, then home prices are going to go up again. The proof is in the pudding. Most like it that happens. Cars now are stupid expensive, $50,000. And now you can get loan rates, what, 7-10 years? Who finances? I'm like, I can't do that. In my soul, I cannot finance a car and feel good about it. For me, for 10 years. That is a long time to say you're going to hold on to a car. 7 years is too long. I remember when they came out with a 4-year uh, uh, loan package, and I was like, wow, you know. But just we can it's like once you open that Pandora's box and you open up like an adding more years, all it does is make prices go up even higher. Yep. What fool would pay 400K for that house? You're talking about my old house, David? I have no Well, what are you gonna do? It's like saying who would pay the home prices for homes in California, right? They'll say, "Oh, that's $1 million for that shack." Well, what are you gonna do? There's nothing else around that area that's gonna be less than that. So you kind of don't have a choice. If you want to buy a house, that's how much it costs in that specific area. Um, like I'm always blown away when I compare my house to a house in California. I'm always like, if this was in California, this would be like a $3 million house. So, you know, Ezra said, "Go get him, Kristina. Go get him." Everything out here in Vegas is so expensive now. And do you remember Green Pirate? Do you remember back during the housing crisis when everybody said, um, like when we had the big crash, Phoenix, Arizona, and Vegas was one of the areas that was hit super hard. And anybody thinking about buying a house during that time when home prices were dropping like a rock, they're like, these neighborhoods are going to be vacant. They're all foreclosed on. Don't even think about buying a house. Think about how many millennials were discouraged. Older millennials, we would say older now, were discouraged from buying a house because so many people said, "Oh, investing in real estate is super risky. Don't do it. It's the worst thing you could possibly do." And if they had bought at that time, they'd be sitting on a gold mine, sitting on a gold mine. Um, I don't know. Yep. So many insurance companies have left Florida. Annabelle, they not only have left Florida, they're leaving Louisiana like crazy every time you turn around. And this is one of those times we all should start a letter writing campaign to our governors. And you're probably thinking, well, what does the governor have to do with it? And this is another story. Back in my day, when I lived in Florida, Jeb Bush was the governor of Florida. And Hurricane Charlie had come through, and they had a few hurricanes like weekend after weekend after weekend. And at that time, State Farm was saying, we're going to have to close up our homeowners insurance policies. We're no longer going to be offering homeowners insurance in the state of Florida. And of course, people were like, oh my gosh, we've had State Farm for years. Like, that's not fair. And the governor said, hey, look, you know what? You could go ahead and take your insurance out of here. Go ahead. Just pack up your homeowner's insurance. But when you do that, make sure you take all your other policies with you. Nobody that's driving a car can have State Farm. They're all like, you can't just decide. You can't pick and choose how much, like what you're going to cover in our state. If you're going to only do one particular insurance, you're not going to do any of them. And sure enough, State Farm backed off. all of our governors, every single state has the power to force insurance companies to be more agreeable. And the fact that, like, they always say, well, these events were unforeseeable is just absolutely a lie. And if you look at what the CEOs make for those big major corporations when it comes to insurance, it's nauseating, right? At the top of the stack, we'll look at State Farm. That CEO makes in a year, $25 million. And then how much do they make all those people underneath him? How much are they making a year? The CEO of State Farm does not, his job is not that complicated. His job is not that complicated that he needs to earn $25 million a year of your money in premiums. It doesn't make any sense to me, not a lick. And they I and this is just the part that just ticks me off. Well, I'm going to go on a tangent. So whenever you hear the CEOs talk about this kind of stuff, they're telling how we as the public are, causing the problems. It wasn't them. It's always our fault. And I just saw, I don't know if you guys saw the CEO of Kellogg's telling us, like, well, since you can't afford groceries, we're repackaging everything so it can make it so you can have dinner at night and you can have one of our cereals. So like between the milk and a little bit of fruit in our cereal, you'll be able to have dinner for $1. I'm like, dude, really? Read the room. Do you think most people want to just sit there and eat a bowl of cereal, your cereal for dinner because they can't afford anything else? I mean, they're so out of touch and they're stealing so much of our money. And in my opinion, it's theft because their job is not complicated enough that they need to be earning $25 million a year. And he's been earning it for several years. Ugh. They have corporate profits with no problem. Kellogg's CEO says you should eat cereal for dinner amid rising grocery prices. Again, our fault. You're just not budgeting enough. You can't afford a home? Stop eating stop eating meat and go and have a bowl of cereal. If you're really serious, buckle down. Buckle down and eat cereal. So gross. As consumers continue to battle inflation, the rising cost of groceries, the CEO of Kellogg's says, eat more cereal. The suggestion, which made online backlash. Oh, good. I'm not the only one that didn't like that. Courtesy of Gary Pinklet, the CEO of Kellogg's, whose annual compensation was reportedly $4 million. The man makes $4 million, and he's going to empathize with us little people by telling us to eat cereal for dinner. Thanks, Gary. We're going to sell our Long Island house to move to Scranton, PA. Northeast Pennsylvania is more reasonable. You can get a $200,000 house. Oh, good. You know what? I'm actually going to be in Pennsylvania. I'm going to be in Westchester, Pennsylvania next month at this time. I'll be in Westchester for a conference. I'm going to be speaking there. I like Pennsylvania. My grandparents grew up in Pennsylvania. We used to go visit them as kids. It's nice out there. It's beautiful. I love the fall. Good for you. MHO8 says cereal executives definitely don't want to tell us to eat more bread. Yeah, right. Lee W says, my kids and I were just talking about this today on how companies' bottom line will never be cut, but we will always be charged more. Well, they're not even just charging more, right? So even the Kellogg cereal, and I proved this during the pandemic. I bought a box of cereal that said family size, and it had how many ounces were on it. And then I bought another box of cereal that said family size, or it was the family size, and it was like 3 ounces less for more money. So they're not only just charging us more for the same products, they're shrinking how much is in the box altogether. Even some of the cake mixes taste different. It's because they've taken out some of the ingredients that were in the cake mix to make it so they could stretch it out even more so they can make more money off of us. Yep. Where's the like button? There's a like button. Yeah, there's a little button on the like button. If you're on mobile, and I highly encourage us, please do this. If you're on mobile, there's this little button that has like hearts and a little celebrations and stuff. If you could hit that button and tap it, YouTube loves that. It's like a tickle to the YouTube gods. So, where's the like button? It's right there. Little thumbsy upsies. It's right there. Uh, Gary has a question. How important is it home ownership versus community? I think both go hand in hand. So if you own a home, you're more invested into a community. It's been proven. It's literally been proven. When you have a bunch of rental areas in an area, that community seems to not thrive as much as an area where there's a lot of home ownership. People have a pride in home ownership. And this is a simple way to prove it to you. I want you to go into a neighborhood, any neighborhood USA, just drive around and start looking at the yards, the landscaping, the actual house itself. And I promise you, a good portion of them where they have like the yard needs work, the house has been ignored, a good portion of them they don't own it, they're renting it. And that's because most landlords, especially corporate landlords, don't care. They don't care. They just want that rent money, that sweet golden rent money. That's all they want. And you can always tell in a neighborhood how many, like you can see which ones are the rentals. Because if you're a renter, are you going to go out there and pick the weeds in the flower beds? No. I mean, why would you? Like, you're not going to do that. If the house needs painting, do you think you're going to spend your weekend painting a rental property? Why? No, absolutely not. So I think that it goes hand in hand. If you want to elevate a community, you have more home ownership. So B-Man says, what do you think of the ads on TV? All the mail I get say buy your home, or they're offering you a market value or question mark. What are they doing with them? Reselling them and renting them out? Okay, so you're talking about like you get those you'll get an ad that says buy this now, or we'll buy your house for top dollar. In a lot of cases, they're wholesalers, and what they're doing is they're going to say, oh yeah, well let's come by, I'm going to come by and look at the condition of your house, and then they'll offer you a price that's below what they think, because they say, oh well, you need a new air conditioning, it's going to need a new roof, it's going to need all this stuff, so this is the amount that we're offering. In some cases, people are desperate enough and they'll sell it to a wholesaler. That wholesaler turns around and sells it for a profit because that's what they make on it. In other cases, you're exactly right. It's an investor who's trying to own a bunch of houses in the area, and so they go ahead and offer it to anybody. They'll offer what the cost, and that's exactly what they do. They fix it up a little bit, they do a little painting, a little new carpet, and they put it out for rent. That happens a lot. Lot. Yep. It's Roween. Kristina, I bought a home last year at 5.6% interest rate. Do you see rates dropping below that anytime soon? I do not. I do not. I thought, and I genuinely believed that we were going to be seeing home interest rates in the lower sixes by now. I was shocked that they started creeping up, and then now they're way over 7. I'm surprised by that. I do not see them getting below 5.5%. Not even next year. I could be completely wrong, but my crystal ball says, not going to happen. Nope. Bizman Space Life 18, love the screen name, says, Kristina, please write a book. We need your ironclad real estate knowledge in a blueprint to you and Eddie. Yeah, well, here's the thing. I'm not, I like to write. I do like to write, believe it or not. But the stuff I write has nothing to do with real estates. I don't think it would fly. I don't know if anybody really that interested. I mean, what would you want it to be about? I want to know what you want it to be about. Because I have a lot of maybe like a mirroring of the comparison between the 2008 market and today, because everybody like wants to say that it's crashing, but of course it hasn't crashed. It hasn't yet, so I would love to do like a side-by-side comparison on why it's not like the 2008 crash. Mark has a question. Can potential home buyers buy points to lower their interest rate? If so, how much does the point cost? That is a mortgage question. And next week, we're going to have Kyle Seagraves on here and he'll explain it to you. But I'll give you the dumbed down realtor version of what points are. So usually it's for a period of time. So you can buy down the points where you give them the money up front for the interest. So your interest rate remains at, let's just say 5%, but it only lasts for so many years. And in those, let's just say 5 years, you're hoping at some point the interest rates will go down enough that you can refinance. It's a risk. You're taking on a risk. There was a big saying, and by the way, mortgage brokers got in trouble for using this. I don't know if you heard it, where people were saying, date the rate, marry the house, or marry the house and date the rate, meaning that you could negotiate the rate and don't worry about it. Go ahead and buy it now. Eventually, interest rates are going to come down again. And I kept saying how incredibly stupid that was, because you're hoping that interest rates will come down someday. Who's to say that they're ever going to come down in a point where it would make it at the 5%? Yeah, I don't see, no, I don't see it going down. Not anytime soon. Like, I'm not joking. All those mortgage lenders that were doing that, a couple states got them for it because it's coercion. So owning is better right now if someone is going to stay put for a few years and has money for repairs and maintenance. Renting is more sense for a lot right now. So I say this too. I've said this many times. If you don't plan on staying in your house, right? If you were planning on looking at a house, if you're not going to stay in it for at least 7 to 10 years, don't buy a house. Don't buy it. Who knows what's going to happen in the next 2 years? And if you were thinking, oh, I mean, my parents made money on it in the last couple of years. Well, that's an unusual housing market. If you'll have bought or paid down enough of your house over 7 to 10 years that you'll be okay if there was a change or shift in the housing market. But if you're only staying in it for a couple of years, please do not buy a house. Please do not buy a house if you're planning on doing that. There's too much risk involved, way too much. But yeah, for many, renting is fine. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with renting. There isn't. There's a time and a place for it. But the point is that most people would love to own a house. There's a good portion of the United States that would love to own a house, but there's nothing affordable for them to buy. And they haven't been building affordable housing for quite some time. And now we're in a situation where home builders are only building big houses, and the only people that can afford them are rich people. And now that building materials have gotten so expensive and land development is so expensive, the only way that they can pencil it out and make a profit is to build a bigger house. So that leaves out the first time small home buyer. And that sucks. And that's terrible. And it shouldn't be that way. And they're talking about how boomers are aging in place. Well, where are they going to move to? Because they want to downsize. There's nothing for them to downsize to. We're in a mess. Percent Better says the iceberg is cracking. Commercial loans are imploding. This is true. Yep. Going to wreak havoc on the residential next. All the 2021 and 2023 purchases, in my opinion, where they sold on the refinance now, lower drop. Well, in 2021, though, they had interest rates that were like, I saw people in interest rates were in the twos, the end of 2021 and going into 2022, interest rates were the lowest they had ever been. 2023, then we had a little bit of a wake-up call, interest rates went back to a normal range. I mean, we're saying 7 is expensive now because we got so used to mortgage interest rates being in the low 4s and 5s, and that's where we want it to be again. But the likelihood of that happening is very low. And the fact that it happened again blows my mind, because I said after the last housing boom, we'll never see interest rates like that again. And I also said we'll never see loan products where they're called interest only loans. And when interest rates got up over 8, I saw a few people that were getting interest only loans. You have to have impeccable credit to get them now. They don't give them to everybody like they did before. But I'm like, have we not learned any lessons here? Have we not learned anything? All those things are very risky, very risky. Right? Eddie, you got another question to throw up on the screen? Blech, throw it up. Every time I say that, I always think that. Throw up. I have a visual in my head. Mr. Gerald says, hi, Kristina. Housing prices are insane in Ireland, too. Seems a worldwide problem. I feel for young people trying to house themselves for their families. Supply isn't even there. Supply isn't there if you have the money. And thank you so much for your comment, because this is not just a problem in the United States. Canada has had this issue for quite some time. Australia has had this issue for so long. And I want to tell you how terrible it was during the pandemic. Australia was giving first-time home buyers incentives to buy a house. And all that did was make the home prices drive up even more. It was even crazier. England has had this problem. I'm like, every, you're right. It isn't just a US problem. It's every state, every country, not state, every country is having some kind of housing issue. And it's all because during the financial crisis, during 2008, builders didn't build as many houses as they had in the past. They weren't going to be left with buildings that, are going to sit vacant and they have to sell for pennies on the dollar. They weren't going to do it again. And now we're in a situation that we're in now, the commercial real estate market, somebody mentioned, is going down. There is no doubt about that. I mean, you'd have to be a fool to say that it's totally fine. They're trying to, there's all sorts of ways they're trying to revitalize that market. It's going to be interesting to see how they do it. So the hippie punk says about the cereal comment, says next they'll tell us to eat the box, yeah, they'll tell us to eat the box. They're going to tell us it's edible. I mean, it's probably got less chemicals than the cereal does. The box is probably healthier for you. Have you seen what's a box of cereal? You can't even read half the ingredients. That's why Eddie and I are gardening this year. Not that you can grow cereal. You know what I mean? Question. My in-laws has a place that's inheritor of the house in Phoenix when it's passed. Oh, it's paid off and the original owners, and they are the original owners. My in-laws have placed us as, you're going to be inheriting a house that's been paid off. They were the original owners. Dave Ramsey says, sell the property you inherit. Sell it or keep it. That's going to depend on your financial situation. If it's a property that you can earn income from, and you got to really work that, by the way, like really work with somebody that understands your market. Find out how much you can get for rent. If you're planning on retiring soon, like maybe that could be something that it will help supplement your income. Dave Ramsey says a lot of things. Sometimes I don't think he's realistic because he doesn't have the same lives that you and I have. And I think anytime you have a piece of property that has the potential to bring you in income, you should hold on to it. But make sure it's going to be worth it for you, especially with the taxes and the insurance and everything in the area, because your homeowner's insurance for that is going to go up if you're going to use it for a rental property. You know that as well. So Tinkerer says, didn't Marie Antoinette tell them to eat cake when the peasants were starving and there was no more bread? Yes, that is the saying. Let them eat cake. Let them eat cereal. That's where we're at right now. Eat our box of cereal that's going to make you glow in the dark, and it has 14 cups of sugar in it. But it's not even sugar anymore. It's high fructose corn syrup. So I have to unsubscribe. I can't believe that an agent, your opinion is somewhat of that someone's income should be limited. This is the USA. Kelly, you know what? This is the airport, and you don't have to announce your departure. You're more than welcome to leave. It's just an opinion. There's 1,000 channels on there. I I just don't, in my opinion, don't think that CEOs running insurance company need to earn $25 million a year. I don't think their job is that difficult that they need to earn that much money. I think that all the income that we have paid for them to insure our houses could go in other places that would be much more useful than their pockets. Forgive me. So, question: what is your opinion on the real estate companies that are popping up now that are 1% commission fees and they pay agents a salary? Okay, so I actually have an opinion with this. Hold on. Oh, I had to take a big swig of tea. So I don't know if you've seen, Eddie, if you can pull up the article in the United States. I forgot which state it was. There was a lawsuit that was against the National Association of Realtors, Remax, Keller Williams. I mean, just think of all the big names. And they claimed that all of these brokerages and NAR were working together in coercion to make and set more selling rates as 6%. They said that, no matter where you went, they said it was a fixed rate that sellers had to pay the buyer's agent and the seller's agent, and they felt like it wasn't fair. And so, and everybody should know this, even if the law hasn't changed in your area. What you pay in commissions is always negotiable every single time. I don't know how many times that in my career that I've had to give up commission to help a property close, whether, like I gave over a portion of commission to help fix a air conditioning unit, or, fix some flooring, or, like something to help the deal close. Commissions are always negotiable through the brokerage itself. So, yeah, it was $2 billion real estate lawsuit means for buyers and home sellers. There are more of these lawsuits popping up in every single state because they lost, and they lost big time. I think it all came down to $178 million. That's how much they're being told they're going to have to pay. Oh, it was 140 million. Yeah, I'm sorry. It was 140 million. Thank you, Eddie. And $5 billion in total damages. I can see why those brokerages are popping up. You're going to see more of them because it's more enticing for people to look at that. But those commissions will always be negotiable, whether you live in a state that has changed the laws or not. There's nothing set in stone that says you have to, in order to sell a house, sell it at 6%. There's nothing out there. And the fear that some people have is that if it goes to a model where you don't pay a buyer's agent any kind of commission, or you have to negotiate that with the sellers or the buyers for them to pay you, that you're getting into a buyer beware situation, because a lot of first-time home buyers don't have the money to pay a real estate agent for their house. So they'll say, well, we'll just roll it into the mortgage. Well, you're just hoping that the mortgage will cover your real estate agent's commissions. Maybe the way that the mortgage rates work, the way the mortgages rate work now, you may not be able to roll in those fees. So they may not have that money to come out of pocket to pay an agent. So they'll go into like a buyer beware situation where they're going in it blindly and hoping the agent on the other side that's representing the sellers is filling out that purchase agreement in a way that would help represent both sides fairly at the price where they're only representing the sellers. But there's nothing in writing that's saying that they have to do that. If they're contracted with the sellers, all they're doing is filling out the form for you, and it's certainly not going to protect you as a home buyer. So if you can find an agent that does it at, for less money, and you find a good quality agent, go for it. Do it. There is nothing that says that because you bought your house with a discount agent, you're going to get a terrible agent. There's good and bad in every type of agency. It doesn't mean that if you pay your real estate agent top dollar, you get a fantastic real estate agent. I've seen that happen too. There's good and bad in everything. So you just got to shop around and find somebody that works for you. And if you can find somebody that does it at a cheaper rate and you love their service, then I go for it. There's nothing that says that because you paid more, you got better service. So that's what I think. I can see it now changing where they're going to be negotiating that more as part of the terms for an offer to be accepted. And they've already seen it where they've changed the purchase agreements in some states to reflect that the commission rates are negotiable. So that way it's very clear to both the buyer and the seller. So the more of these lawsuits are going to pop up more and more and more. I'm interested to see how it all plays out. We probably won't see the true ramifications of it until about 5 years from now. That's my prediction. That's my crystal ball prediction. Suzanne says, if a rural property nearby sells, then a huge house is built on it. Will that increase the taxes on the older home that's nearby? Well, just like anything, it's a comparable. You have to have a comparable property. So if you have a house that's been sitting on acres of land, and the house next door builds a mansion, is that going to change your property taxes or your appraised value? Most likely not that much, because it has to be comparable to what everything else is. So you have to compare it to other 30-year-old homes in the area. So that's how that works. Like an appraiser can't, like for instance, an appraiser can't go in and say, oh, well, this house right next door, it's brand new and it's 1.6 million. So your 30 or 40-year-old house that hasn't been updated is worth the same amount because it's the same square footage. No, it's not the same. Nope. It's not comparable. Not at all. Crazy May Stash. Thank you for coming on the stream. They do live streams all the time. I really don't know what's going on over there, but she shows a lot of cool stuff I think she's selling. I like looking at all the stuff she's got. It says, I was thinking about going to Vid Summit 2024. Do you recommend going? Are you going? 2024. Thanks. I have not missed a Vid Summit since well, I missed it because of the pandemic, but I've been going since 2018, I believe. And I don't know if you know this, but I actually spoke at Vid Summit in 2020 after the pandemic. They were lifting the restrictions, or is it 2021? They lifted the restrictions yes, I'm definitely going. There's not a year that I've ever missed. And if you're really interested in YouTube, you should really read a book called The YouTube Formula. And it just so happens that my whole story and my channel is in that book. Daryl Eves wrote that book. And he asked if he could put my story in there. I said, absolutely, absolutely. So, and that's kind of cool, right? If you didn't know that about me, the story of my real estate channel is in a book that I didn't even write. Somebody much more popular than that wrote it. So, all right. Anybody else got any questions for me? Eddie can put it up on the screen. I greatly appreciate it. I'm really excited, by the way. I'm so excited to go to Phoenix, Arizona and show you those homes, those Denny homes. Oh, I can't wait to show you. Charlatan has a question, says, debt to income ratio affects the points of interest gain and how? Okay. I am not a mortgage broker, but I can read the internet. So it says, Eddie pulled this up for me. Thank you. Your DTI, your debt to income ratio, doesn't directly impact your credit score, but it has factors lenders may consider when deciding on whether to approve for additional credit amount of the amount of home. They're asking about points, Eddie. They're asking about points. So yeah, that's a lender question. So this is what I want you to do is next week, I'm going to have Kyle Seagraves from the channel Win the House You Love. He's going to be on here and he can answer all the questions when it comes to points, interest only loans, reverse mortgages, anything like that. That's a him question. I can give you very basic information on what I know about it, but I don't want to steer you wrong. Just know I was never supportive of the saying date the rate, marry the house. Every time somebody said that, I wanted to throw up. I want to throw up. Like, that is the worst thing you can do. It's like they make a blanket statement like that. Oh, we're just going to hope that the rates go down and you can refinance later. Okay. Whatever. DTI is important to your credit score and job stability. High debt to income ratio was the most common primary reason for mortgage denials in 2020, according to NerdWallet analysis on the federal mortgage data. So, do you guys want to go down a conspiracy rabbit hole with me? I talked about this in a video, but this is my conspiracy rabbit hole that I've been going down. So we know that they haven't been building as many affordable houses. Investors are drooling for those smaller homes. They really want to get into those smaller homes. They want to force people out of their houses as much as possible. With the interest rates being the way that they are right now, not many people are moving. So, how could Wall Street force people out of their homes so they could purchase them to rent them out? How could they do that? What entities could they force people, make them so expensive? Let's just think. Could it be insurance? Could they possibly raise insurance so high that people can't afford, so they have to sell their smaller home? And who would scoop that up? Because you can't insure it, but a Wall Street investor wouldn't care if it's insured or not because they bought it cash. That's my conspiracy thing. I genuinely, like, when I'm really just sitting there at night thinking about this, I'm like, because I'm like, who does this really benefit? It benefits Wall Street, because just think about it. If you lived near the Florida coast, not even on the beach, just close enough, and your insurance, because of the fact that you live, far enough away from the coastline, that your insurance, was high. Let's just say it was $2,000 a year. And now the insurance company is saying to you, well, now it's going to be $10,000 a year. A lot of people can't afford that. And not only that, the insurance company says you're going to have to pay $10,000 a year, and you're going to have to get flood insurance. And you go and look up the flood insurance prices, and the flood insurance prices are, another $3,000 a year. Something you were paying only $2,000 a year for 2 years ago is now going to cost you an additional $12,000. So you have no choice. You're going to sell it. Who's going to buy that? Because they can't get insurance on it. But it's a vacation spot in Florida where people love to go lay out at the beach. Who would love that? Investors, Wall Street investors. So that's my conspiracy theory. That's what I sit and lay down and think about at night. Jay Stratton says, thoughts about single women moving in items into storage, selling the house, Las Vegas, being homeless so they can take little time to find a home? What are your thoughts about reverse mortgages? Thoughts about a single woman moving items into storage, selling the house in Las Vegas, being homeless so they can take a little time to find a home. Also, what are your thoughts on a reverse mortgage? I would say don't be homeless. If you have the money, I hope you're finding something. You're just saying that I'm going to assume you're just saying homeless in the fact that you're just going to find something, but you have somewhere to stay. You're not going to actually live on the streets. I'm going to take that as face value at that. My thoughts on reverse mortgages is that it's a select product that works for select people, and your financial situation needs to be considered, right? If you are in poor health, and I don't know, you would have to work with somebody when it comes to reverse mortgages, because I've seen 2 cases I've seen on both sides where a reverse mortgage saved this woman's life because she was able to afford to stay in her home until she died. But I've seen it the opposite, where they did the reverse mortgage. The parent passed away shortly after, and they got nothing in the end. So it can work both ways. Just be very careful on what you're signing when you're doing a reverse mortgage. Make sure you've talked to other people that are not necessarily in the mortgage business, whether that be a financial broker, and understand the whole aspects of that reverse mortgage before you sign for it. I'd say that. Is Kristina secretly writing Harlequin romances? Back in the day, maybe. Back in the day, there might be something out there. I do like writing. I do. I need to get back into it. I haven't done it. That's so funny. Good question. Excuse me. I had my throat's getting dry. Question. You said that building materials are up in price, but they aren't. They're actually lower than before. Correct. They are going down now, but the cost of building a house in 2019 is not the same as building a house today. Not only that, labor, and you know as well as I do, there is a labor shortage, and so in order to get good labor, you're going to have to pay them more. It isn't just the cost of the actual building materials itself. You still have to pay for the land. You still have to pay the people to build it, and to get all those things to work cohesively today is not the same as it was in 2019. It's not your imagination. The cost of materials has jumped an average of 18%. Oh, whoopsie. But they were going down. They were, because I remember reading this. By 2024, prices could be 20 to 28% higher than they would have been compared to the 2020 trajectory, which will make building a budget, which will make building a budget-friendly home a real challenge for some. That's, and this is why we talk about manufactured housing. But even the manufactured home before the pandemic, buying a manufactured home, you could find one for about $77 per square foot. Some of them even as low as $60 per square foot. And I was like, I've been looking on some of the lots and stuff. They're not $77 per square foot. They're like $80, $90 per square foot for a manufactured home. The prices have gone up a lot, big time. Now that isn't the peak even. They had actually gone up even higher than that, and they came back down because they said building materials had come down, so they lowered the price of buying on them. So I don't know. It's all fake. It's all fake. Recently, I feel like they're just charging more because they know that we're already in a situation like, what are we going to do about it? You have to get home. So, Kristina, if the guy with the house in Phoenix wants to reach out to you with the address, I am glad to send him the comps and rental comps in saturation rates if that helps. Oh, okay. Thank you, Jacqueline. I appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you. They're there. They're here every week hanging out with us. I appreciate that. Tim says a question and says, bought our first home, a double wide manufactured home on actual crawl space with an FHA loan. Congratulations. They said it had to be, they said it had to be retired, and it was. Still, my home increased in value, 1 acre. Well, that's going to depend on your location. But the blanket statement that I hear a lot, even from Dave Ramsey, is that manufactured homes or mobile homes will never ever increase in value. He says they're a car you'll sleep in, and that's literally horse pucky, total garbage. That's not true. Now, would you have made more money if you put a house on that and sold it in 10 years? Yes, but that's to say you would never make a penny selling it in the future is just stupid and irresponsible. That's not the case. Take care of your property. In the future, you will sell it for a little bit of more than what you bought it for. That's always going to be the truth. So Kristina's written books. Loving the listing, The Agent's Heart, Finding Home, Falling for the Agent, Real Estate Romance, and An Agent's Affair. Wow, those are some great titles. You should email them to me. I might actually have to do those on Wattpad. I don't know if you guys know what that is. Sue Jackson says, who's getting money from the lawsuits? Whoever's filing them. It was a class action lawsuit, I believe, for the first one that came about. Like, honest to God, I'm not kidding when I tell you, whoever was representing the real estate agents' side really did a crummy job, honest to God. And us as real estate agents were pretty fired up, mad about it because of the fact that it doesn't really it doesn't really make sense, some of the things and the arguments that they made, and they didn't do a really good job in defending how the commissions work at all, because they made it seem like, all these brokerages got together on a Sunday afternoon and said, okay, this year we're going to fix the rates at 6%. Make sure you put that in the purchase agreement. And when it clearly says in most purchase agreements that commissions are negotiable. So whenever you're sitting down to list a house with a seller, you say, okay, we're going to offer to the buyer's agent a certain commission rate. What do you want that to be for them to bring in the buyers to see your house? That's what most listing agents do. They say, okay, you know, this is what I charge, and this is the breakdown of what I charge, because this is what I'm going to earn. So these are all the things you're going to get because I earn that amount of money. But what do you want to offer the buyer's agent, the person that's going to be bringing in the buyers to buy your house? What commission rate do you want to offer them to pay them? The way the new commission system is going to work out is that, or they're hoping that it's going to work out, that there will be no buyer's agent commission paid by the sellers. The sellers would pay their side and the buyers would pay their side. And I think that's all it's going to do is hurt the first time home buyers. I don't think it's going to benefit anybody. It used to be that way before, and it didn't work out. And that's why they changed it. They changed the system. So Brandon says, I know interest rates are not entirely predictable, but inflation cools, the Fed should lower rates. Will that lower refi to some degree? We are at 6.1. We budgeted for 5% long term. Of course, everything is dependent on what happens with the bonds market. And that's how we determine the mortgage rates. Mortgage rates every day, all day long, are always changing. Even though you've read on the Googles, you Googled it, what are mortgage rates today? I mean, it is so, like, even though it's written on ink, it doesn't mean that's what it's going to be, 15 to 20 minutes from now. They're always fluctuating, going up and down all the time. And in every state, they're going to be different as well. So you're just going to have to pay attention to it. I don't see a lot of people. I think, Eddie, if you could look up the statistic, I believe over 60% of people have mortgage rates under 5% right now. I don't see a big influx of refis happening, even if they were to drop the rates, because most people have already refinanced. So I can't see. I'd love to see interest rates go back to 5%. It's still going to, if that happens, I think it's going to make real estate go crazy again, which is unfortunate, because I don't want to ever see that again, because people have that FOMO feeling like I should have gotten it. The problem is, and it's always going to be until they fix it, is that there's not enough affordable homes for people to buy, even though they could qualify, even though they could qualify. They have a great job, they have a great down payment, and they want to buy a house in their area, but they can't find anything that will qualify them. It's crazy. It's crazy. Nationally, 88.5% of U.S. homeowners have a rate this is crazy. 88.5% of U.S. households have a rate below 6%, according to Redfin. In the new report on Friday, brokerages analyzed the data in the third quarter of 2023 from the Federal Housing Finance Agency National Mortgage Database. That figure is down from a record high of 92.8% in 2022. So 88% of people that own a home have a mortgage that's under 6%. I don't know. I don't know if it's ever going to go back in the fives. For some owners, the gap between their rate and their current one is even larger. 23% of homeowners have a rate below 3%. Wow. And nearly 60% below 4%. 60% of homeowners have a rate below 4%. That's a lot of people. And why would you want to give, if you were even considering, let's just say, moving up or moving down, why would you give up that interest rate? If you had an interest rate below 3%, why would you ever think about selling to get into a house that's smaller at a 7% interest rate, and you're probably paying the same mortgage payment as you were? Even though the house costs less, it's because of that stupid interest rate being so incredibly high. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. What area I'm in? I'm in Louisiana. Louisiana. Yes, the hard-hitting questions for Zenny. Actual production this time. Yeah, so I'm going to be in their factory. I have scheduled, my husband even saw it, I have a scheduled tour for that I have a time slot that I actually get to tour the factory. I'm very excited. It's gonna be really good. I think I'm gonna rent a helicopter ride and go up there. What do you think? Do you think I should get in the helicopter and go above it to see if I see any like aliens over like Roswell, New Mexico or something like that? I don't know. So Lafayette in building. All right. I don't know what that means. V-Man has a question regarding the lawsuit of buyer paying both sides of the deal. Will they refund, say, 7 years back? Oh, absolutely not. Nope, they can't do that. So, anyways, let me go ahead and wrap this up. I want to say thank you so much to everybody on the stream. I appreciate every single one of you. I'm sorry who's on first. I know you put in a question, but maybe you could put it in the chat after this video is finished being published. As soon as this is done, the stream ends, open it up the app again, and then put your question in there, and I will answer it right away. If you guys have a question and you're watching this as a replay, go ahead and put that below, and I will answer it as they come in. I want to thank everybody for coming in and spending so much time with you. There was over 600 of you today, and I appreciate every single one of you listening to me ramble. Next week will be really interesting because we will have our mortgage guy on here, and that is Kyle Seagraves, Win the House You Love. And if you want to listen to this as a podcast, you can go anywhere you listen to podcasts, type in my name, Kristina Smallhorn, then the words real estate for everyone. And you can listen to any episode that you might have missed in the past. I appreciate that. If you want to go ahead and do that, go ahead and leave me a 5-star review. All right, everybody. Thank you. We'll talk soon. If you need to get a hold of me, just go to my website, KristinaSmallhorn.com. You can fill out a form. I'll fill out the email, try to get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks so much. Bye bye, everyone. Yay. Yeah, there's my website right there. Thank you, Eddie. Bye. Don't look up when it's raining.